everyone, welcome to the Light Renegades. My name is Starr, and welcome if this is your first time. This is our fourth message with regards to the darkness. If this is your first time here, you might want to start at the beginning of this playlist. There is a few channelings that might be pretty heavy to get into from the first go, so if you don't feel necessarily called to be sticking around for a pretty heavy message today, maybe head over to our playlist and start with some meditations. We do have some channelings from the Galactic Federation of Light, who we now call the Galactic Alliance, but there might be other spaces where you can get started. We do have a Getting Started series with my fellow Light Renegade, my fellow Pleiadian sister Anna Maria, who has started with some more bite-sized pieces to get you into these galactic realms, channelings from the Pleiadian High Council. So this might be your space, but not necessarily your video, because we're getting pretty deep today. This is message 4 of the darkness series. So things we're talking about, the darker energies and negative aspects of this, I don't even know what to call it at this point, this dualistic aspect of life that we find ourselves in. Also, just where we are in our journey, our ascension process. So if you consider yourself to be a starseed, an expansive soul, this might be your place. But to everyone that is in real time, I have been mulling over in my mind the best way to bring all of this forward, because some pieces still aren't fully together, and I didn't expect to be making this video today, but teams behind the scenes were saying come forward with what you have, and I think this is to show the process of how sometimes things come in and it's not all at the exact same time. And I've been filtered and trickled little bits of information as time has gone on in my journey. I'm about probably nearly like 4 years from the start of my expansive path, and it's been little but surely that things have come in until maybe about a year ago when, everything just took a massive turn and I was catapulted into all of these realms and channeling the Galactic Federation. And my life just hasn't been the same since. But today I want to speak about something that happened over the last few weeks, specifically the last week in particular. And this has completely, I don't even know what to say, because I wouldn't necessarily say it's not rocked me to my core, but I think I'm just kind of astounded where I find myself in my journey right now. And I think a lot of you are coming to that point too. So I think it's, I'm showing up in solidarity for you, and also to help you understand maybe where your emotions might be lying at this time. And, I'm having to navigate my emotions in a different way. The more that I come back into the space, the more that I adapt, the more that I try and see all of this from a higher perspective. I've gone through many layers of my emotions in this, and I'm going to explain this today. But last week it was brought to my attention, and sometimes, I don't really necessarily pay attention to the news. I don't read newspapers, and for some reason, I'm not sure how it happened even, I can't remember how I saw it, but I saw in the newspaper that Taylor Swift, who we all know, is a massive celebrity at this point, she was trying to, she put a bid in to buy my Nottingham local football team. And at first glance, I was like, that can't be right. That can't be true. This doesn't make any sense to me. So, I did a little bit more investigation on that. And what I found out, message number 1, what I found out was that actually this football team is one of the oldest in the UK, and that specific space where they are, they've been in that space for that entirety of that time. They are the oldest football team in the UK. So imagine all of that energy that's going into that space. I thought this makes a lot more sense why Taylor Swift might want to buy this football team. They're also called the Magpies, which didn't go unnoticed by me, and this ties into something else that I'll speak about a little bit later. So that was alarm bells number 1 ringing to me, that Taylor Swift was, getting very close to home, and I felt a specific pull to where I find myself in my hometown. I've never felt the want to travel, and something has always pulled me back. The only time I managed to get away for a significant amount of time was to go to university, and that first year I ended up in the same space that Aleister Crowley died, and then throughout lockdown I was actually in London. So I was in the hub, the epicenter of the reptilian order, and then I was brought back into Nottingham, and now I'm sat in this darkness energy with whatever is going on around me, because it seems like there is something happening here. I've been into spaces where I'm looking underneath where I find myself, and there are beings underneath where I am, which is very interesting to me. So Taylor Swift wants to buy the Magpies, and in that same week, this is the thing that has blown my mind completely. So we have the blood moon, that weekend, and on that same night we had an ice hockey game, and Nottingham is very big for ice hockey. We have a team called the Panthers. And on the night of the blood moon, we had a real tragic incident happen. And, you know, one of our players from the Panthers team had their throat slashed and they died. And I just couldn't process that information. I read it and I thought, okay, don't go into, you know, usual me, conspiracy mode, some people might call it, you know, at this point. So a lot of people call that around me, like, you're in conspiracy mode again. So I was like, okay, take this at face value. And I just couldn't. I was like, the fact that it was a blood moon the night that this happened, and, you know, the amount of people that would have seen that in that, you know, kind of stadium setting, and the fact that Taylor Swift was brought to my attention in that same week, I thought, there is no coincidences here within this. And I had to do more investigation. You know, ice hockey is not really my thing, so I've been to maybe 2 games in my lifetime. And I did a little bit more investigation. I thought, I would bet my life, I probably shouldn't say those things at this point in my journey, but I was like, I will bet my life that this player is American. And then lo and behold, after more investigation, this player is in fact American. And I thought there has to be something else here. And I'm going to tag a couple of videos attached to this from other people's perspective. And, you know, lo and behold, the more that I delved into this, the more that I could see a lot more other people coming forward and saying, this doesn't seem to be okay. This doesn't seem to be right. There was a larger scope on that as well in terms of the protective gear that should be worn when playing ice hockey, and that's been a thing throughout the ages that, you know, that hasn't formally come into an understanding. So I was like, from that standpoint, you know, I can understand that and why this is, you know, perhaps a wider thing that is happening. But from what I know, sitting where I am, it just felt very iffy that Taylor Swift was around, you know, in where I find myself, and then this American player then, you know, having this tragic incident happen to them. And, you know, I've been sending so much love and light to this person's family, their friends, and, you know, I was just thinking the grief that everyone feels. You know, everyone gets quite emotional about sport. That's like a real hub of energy, and I thought all of these people that are going to be incredibly sad by, you know, the passing of this person. And the more I delved into this, the more I started to see where there was perhaps a little bit more to this than meets the eye. And this player had moved from America after playing for a specific team, and he played 13 games. And to me, you know, the number 13 stuck out like a sore thumb. And this player had played for 13 games, and then he moved over to Nottingham to play for the Panthers. And actually, where he was in America, there is a rival team that is called the Steelers, and the game that he was playing in Nottingham was against the Sheffield Steelers. So he'd gone from playing for, I think it was called the Penguins, if I remember rightly, and then he'd gone to play, and the rival team was the Steelers. So he's come to Nottingham to play for the Nottingham Panthers, and then the rivals team was the Steelers, the Sheffield Steelers, but in Nottingham. So from America to Nottingham, his opponents were still the Steelers, and this happened in Sheffield. And I just thought, it can't be just me that, you know, sees the synchronicities in this. It sees that perhaps there was a much larger, you know, thing at play with regards to this situation. And I was really grateful to find this video when I was searching for more information, and it's from someone that delves into a lot of more political kinds of conspiracy, or, you know, wider vantage points with like an intuitive edge. And this person mentions going into a store to buy a jacket, to buy a hockey jacket, and, you know, he picked up the jacket of this player that has passed, the team that they first played for, which was the Penguins. And, you know, he took that as his sign. Same like me getting the information about Taylor Swift, and in the same week hearing the story. I thought the two things have to be connected somewhere. And, you know, that's just a sign of how these synchronicities, you know, come through, and you just have to trust your instincts. And now I'm not being given a full understanding, a full go ahead of this yet, because I think there's going to be more information that's brought to light about the player that actually, you know, caused the injury to this person that killed them. So I'm still investigating that, and, you know, I'm intrigued to see how that pans out, because I really do hope some sort of formal justice is brought to the table. And the video that I'm going to tag, they talk a little bit more about, you know, other aspects of celebrity culture where they have gotten away with things because, you know, the parameters of what's manslaughter, what's murder, what's, you know, can be considered to be premeditated or not. And I thought this is where we start to see how certain people have, you know, the rules haven't applied to them. And I thought there's so many cases that we can look back on and see where the rules of, you know, where we live in this 3D plane of existence hasn't seemed to apply to many celebrities. And why is that? You know, and then we take our understanding at a deeper level with these negative forces, with the negative reptilians, and, you know, the picture starts to make a little bit more sense. And what I've started to see, and I channeled a message from the Galactic Federation and a few channelings from Brittany Murphy as well. She's been speaking about, you know, systems coming down and not in the ways that you were expecting. And something else has happened in the last couple of months, which I find incredibly interesting. And there is a tattoo artist called Kat Von D, and, you know, she has decided to make the switch from where she found herself in her beliefs as a witch, as, you know, pagan understandings, all of that side of stuff. And she's completely shifted to be, you know, following a Christian path. She's covered a lot of her tattoos, and, you know, she says that there's a spiritual warfare happening, and she is coming up against the darkness. And she said, I don't want to be associated with these things anymore, and I just feel like it's not my path, and I've seen the light, essentially. And I thought that's a massive that is a massive person to have shifted their perspective. They're in the communities that, you know, at least I've been in, like I have a lot of tattoos, that sort of thing. That's a huge thing. That's a huge statement for that community. And a lot of people that peddle, you know, some perhaps darker aspects and then sink into these darker aspects without realizing the true nature of what's going on. And I thought that's a system that is slowly, you know, faulting with these strong people coming forward and making a stand in that, which I wasn't expecting. You know, I saw it and I thought that's amazing. I didn't expect to see that. So I think these small little things are coming forward that are going to make a difference to so many people's lives, which then energetically shifts, you know, this whole narrative that we find ourselves in. And I thought, you know, with this idea of the player that, you know, they got their throat slashed and, you know, what is being told is a tragic accident, so now they're clamping down on, you know, the supportive gear for more players, which I think is amazing. And then I just go a little bit deeper into that, and I think there's actually like a bigger political story being told here that the other video goes into. And I thought there's going to be a lot of questions surrounding this. And what I found really interesting actually was that, you know, now where I find myself in the town of Nottingham was on American TV, was on American screens. You know, all of this information is coming out about Nottingham, about Nottingham, about Nottingham. And I couldn't help think Taylor Swift was here bringing forward Nottingham. This incident now happens in Nottingham, so a lot of people's energy are now coming back into Nottingham in America. And I just thought something is happening. There is a connection with America to Nottingham. And the whole entirety of my life, I said Nottingham was not my home, and I've always felt American. I've always watched American shows. I've always been drawn to American culture, like English culture. I just didn't have any time for. I didn't want to be around it. So there's something happening. I'm not being told exactly what it is. I'm not being told the grand scheme of things because, you know, I've asked, I know there's been a lot of questions around Matthew Perry as well and what happened there, and we are going to get some answers within that, everyone. I have been told some things behind the scenes that are not ready to come forward yet, and, you know, same applies. We know what's going on, as is a main message coming through with regards to all of that. So where I find myself right now is delving back into the realms of Scientology again. I've actually been guided to demonology and understanding demons and their names, and, you know, no surprise to me that I found that a lot of the names of the demons, like one resonated at an intuitive level. I thought, oh, I've heard these names before. They weren't a surprise to me. And then two, the names that are used often in, you know, this media culture that we find ourselves in fantasy, you know, in films and in books. I thought I've heard a lot of characters' names be quite similar to this, and that be something that is used as a tactic to bring these negative energies in. And I thought that's incredibly interesting to me, and I'm looking forward to delving into a little bit more of that and what that might mean for the wider scope of all of this energy and what is actually happening behind the scenes in this control. But I think the main thing that I wanted to bring forward today is my response to all of this and how I've really had to kind of keep myself in check, because I realize I get quite emotional when these things get brought to the forefront of everything. And, you know, there is a couple of people in my life that I've really cared about that have been, you know, in the grips of this darkness, in the grips of this dark energy. So I get quite emotional. I get quite angry when, you know, I heard that Taylor Swift was around my hometown and wanting to buy the Magpies. I immediately just saw red, you know, and I thought I have to work on me in terms of my, emotional standpoint on that, because me investing more negative energy into that space isn't helping. And, these poor souls aren't in control. Some of them have had free will. Some of them, are under the reptilian influence. But either way, these souls, they're not in the highest vibration, so we kind of can't blame them, and they're all on their own personal path and journey. But there is a reason why I'm here. There's a reason why I'm bringing this all to light, for awareness, for you, for the wider scope of people. And I thought I really have to shift my narrative with all of this and come back to my self-love, come back to my compassion for everyone. And I do have that, but my first instinct is just to see red, and I just get incredibly angry, and yeah, just sad for the families and, the friends of the people involved that do get sacrificed in these spaces. And yeah, it's just, it's unimaginable, what is happening, although we know it. But well, that's when I said in my last video with Britt, it's getting very close to home. It is, on my doorstep at this point. And I just thought, wow, okay, like what I thought to be my reality is completely shifted. And it's just obvious to me. It's just here. And I think a lot of you are in your journey at the same space as me, where these things are just blaringly loud to you. And trust where you're being led. Trust where you're being intuitively led. I don't even know how I saw the newspaper with Taylor Swift, but it came into my plane of existence. And, same with this other person in the video that I'm going to tag. They went to the store and they brought the jersey of, this player that had been in this incident. And, that was their confirmation to them to look at this a little bit deeper. And I thought, there's a synchronistic, energy between two people that, are intuitive, and you just have to listen to that nudging. So listen to that nudging, everyone, because it's there for a reason. And I'm still, investigating all of this. I'll bring forward more when I know more. But that's where I find myself right now. And I wanted to bring in Brittany Murphy, who I've been channeling for about 6 months. If you haven't checked out that information over there was a few channelings from her, and she speaks about Hollywood. She speaks about, an incident in a party that I'm going to add into this darkness series, because it all ties in together. And this is where the weavings of everything is being interwoven. And, she started speaking about how we are manipulated as a movement where we find ourselves, and finding it difficult to stay in our reality because we see things of the other, and it becomes very difficult to stay where we are. And yeah, I'm going to share something that happened this morning. So I was in the shower, and then all of a sudden I could just feel this dense energy come in, and I could see these reptilian beings in front of me, and like, when I see them, it's kind of like in my mind's eye, but energetically I know that they are there. And I instantly just went into shouting at these beings, and not in my language. I just started shouting a language that obviously I know, but I didn't know this lifetime. And I was shouting at these beings, being quite angry at them and telling them what for. And it just blew my mind, because it was just so quick. And, I think I'd jumped into a space of me being in another timeline, being with these beings. And yeah, it was just like, oh, this is happening, this is here. This feeling that I've had for the entirety of my life, this feeling that I've had tapping into the other, it is now being brought into my physical plane of existence, and there's no getting away from it, nor do I want to. But it's just, yeah, I have to catch myself every single day. I see beings all of the time now, and I sense their energy. I know that they are there. So this is just a message to trust where you are in your journey, and please do reach out to us if everything is feeling a little bit too much, because it does. You have a breakdown of the mental psyche, and there is definitely a fine line between mental health and where we find ourselves right now, and a definite crossover where I think some people are very much being subdued in their understandings, because there is just not enough information of what is truly going on right now, because there just can't be. We're just expanding at such a rate where this is mass manipulation that we are breaking down from. So you feel like the one that's crazy, you feel like the one that is, not seeing the truth, when actually it is you. It is you that's seeing the truth. So trust in your knowings, trust in your intuitive nudgings, and where you are being led. And last thing I wanted to talk about is that I've delved in a little bit more within Scientology, and I realized that they actually, some of the key members that were formed Scientology as a, structure, they had a production company. They made movies, and the movies that were made are very much connected to galactic energy and the satanic movement. And I was like, this is where every single bit of all of this journey is finally coming together, and it's starting to make sense. This whole pyramid of just where we find ourselves in manipulation and the higher level energies and beings that are out there that are entwined with all of this, pushing these, darker narratives, darker agendas for their own gain. So more to come from me, everyone. But the main message is, don't get lost in the source. I like to say, don't get lost in fear, for one. Definitely try and subdue these energies of our first reactions of anger, frustration, and all of those things. And I know a lot of you are very closely entwined with this negative reptilian order, as am I, and as am I in other spaces of darkness with this satanic energy, this Luciferian energy that's for a negative cause. And remember that there is always a light aspect to everything, so try and tap into the light aspects of everything. I send all of my love, all of my light, all of my energy to all parties involved. I might have that first instance of rage. I do, I'm still only human at this point too, so I try to have compassion for myself in that. But then I come to a space of light, then I come to a space of sending my love and my energy out there to any parties involved, because at this point, we're all growing, we're all expanding, and it's here for a reason. I know that, but what that wider reason is exactly now, I'm not in full understanding of, but when I grab some more information, I'll bring it forward to you. But that's where I find myself right now. I'm going back into Scientology, I'm into demonology, and I feel ready to be taking on the next stage. So if you feel the calling to be reaching out to me or to any of the other Light Renegades, don't hesitate to do that. And also, I wanted to share the negative energy and darker energy removal meditation again at the end of this video. And I set quite strong parameters in that, because at that time I was going through a lot of negative energy, and I think some people will go through that. But on the basic level, it's a clearing of each chakra and you pulling out negative energy for yourself, which is very much tied to the Reiki practitioner practices. I'm a Reiki master, so you learning to understand your energy system, you learning to understand where negative energy is around you, what it feels like in your body, and pinpointing that, which is a really great practice moving forward with the regards to the ascension process, and understanding your energetic field, and understanding when other things come into your field that you might not want to be there. So see it as a testing practice too, as well as a cleansing practice. And just set up some crystals, put yourself in a cycle of salt. Don't think too fearfully about the guidelines that I've set. I was very strict at that time because I had to be out. There was a lot going on. I think some people, do have to be a little bit more careful in their practices if they have a history of, being involved with ritual, that type of thing. But I didn't want people to be afraid of stepping forward and doing that practice, because it's actually a really beautiful practice, if I do say so myself. And it's a very simple practice too. It's 25 minutes, but it's very relaxing. I actually did it today for myself, and I thought, actually there's not enough people that have watched that video, so please do. It's very relaxing. It's something that you could do before bed, and it definitely helps you start to understand your own energy and connect into your physical vessel and your energetic body, and understand that they are separate but also one and the same. But that's all from me today, everyone. I'll be back very soon. Take care.